All right, we're back. I got a half a mouth of peanuts. I'm ready to go.
Chewy, chewy.
Okay, you started asking me a question, and I said I would start recording. So,
I was curious as to why you started doing free typing.
okay, sorry, I wanted to answer it on camera.
Yeah.
Um, well, there's a number of different reasons, and so it's kind of like all the reasons stacked up, and then it was like, okay, I have to do it now because there's too many reasons to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the reasons were like it's steady content for my channel.
Hmm.
It's relatively easy for me to do. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
require any post production. I can just record it, throw the
Yeah.
videos on YouTube. So it's kind of low effort for me.
Hmm.
Um, Something I enjoy doing.
Hmm.
Um, Gives me a chance to talk to people, meet a lot of different people, study people's brains. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Um, it also, I think it's a, I think all of the services that type people pretty much are
Yeah.
doing it like behind closed doors. So if I'm putting out a lot of content of me typing people,
Hmm.
that's a lot of stuff for people to watch. That's not normally out on the internet, kind of.
Yeah.
uh, so um, so it's all a clever ploy to get you to go to the website and buy one of my gift recommendations.
Yeah.
In long story short, but I
Yeah.
mean, it also just ties into all the things I'm interested in, and I'm working on something I enjoy doing. You know, I want
Yeah.
to make a living doing it eventually. It maybe we'll get there in a few years, but
Yeah.
you know, it's nice to be working on a project that's a passion project that is also making a little bit of money, and hopefully it can make enough money that I can do it full time. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so it just kind of all ties into that, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. It's great when all your interests sort of like meld into
Yeah,
what do you want to do. Yeah.
definitely.
That's so cool.
All right, we're back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Uh, so let's see here. Let's see. So you're not typically when you're working through ideas,
Hmm.
it's going on up here, right? Or are you talking it through? Are you thinking it through, or are you talking it through?
Um, Nowadays I tend to definitely think it through. I
Okay.
sort of miss, I've noticed that I used to sort of kind of talk it through and just sort of be this sort of like word vomit and
Mm-hmm.
sort of throwing out ideas without even really thinking about them. I kind of miss doing that. But nowadays it's definitely me thinking and articulating everything beforehand.
Okay. Um, are you able to? Would you say that you're able to turn it on when it comes to charisma? Like, are you able to like flip a switch and like own that room, kind of thing?
Hmm. Um, Not as well as I think a lot of other people, but
Mm-hmm.
I can generally I tend to I I tend to when I need to, I guess I sort of I guess I can I really just start asking everybody questions. Like I sort of just sort of I try to bring up conversation. I sort of try to ask like fun hypothetical questions to make me seem interesting or
I
witty.
see. I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But I also ask I try to learn a lot about other people's lives usually in those situations. Like I try to show an interest in others in those moments where I need to sort of be charismatic.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Mm.
Um, Man, you are a tough nut to crack. I have to tell you, there's certain things that are kind of one or the other, and you're like you kind of come down right on the middle on some of these, and
Mm.
that actually makes me think you are a certain type, because that certain type I have a brother who's that certain type,
Oh, okay.
it's always been hard for me to kind of get him, for
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
reason. Um,
Hey.
so
Oh.
that's what basically I have a theory, but I need to disprove it.
Mhm.
Um, what's your aptitude in, not that necessarily type is going to have any kind of factor to play in this, but more just I'm curious to know what your answer is.
Mhm.
What's your aptitude in matters of math?
Um, I'm not very good at it, I'd
Okay,
say.
that's good.
Yeah.
Um, what's a theory that you've come up with recently?
A theory that I've come up with recently. Can it be introspective? Can,
Anything, any kind of theory that's your own unique theory about something.
um, a theory about something. Um, I sort of, what's a theory about something? I mean, and one, the immediate one that comes to mind, I don't know if I call it a theory, was I've noticed everything with me tends to be a fair trade, or I try to make it a fair trade.
Uh huh.
Um, so if, I try to make it, if I'm talking to somebody, I want them to talk as long as I have been talking for. And I
Okay.
get frustrated when I see other people usually rant for a long time.
Uh huh.
I guess like I'm doing now.
And they don't give you the equal,
And they don't
the
give me, or
equal
just
play
somebody,
to.
yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this question: Would you ever make fun of somebody just to see them be uncomfortable because you would get some kind of like satisfaction or enjoyment out of that?
Never, if it were a really good friend, I would. And I would never do it if I would never try and intentionally, actually, you know what? Yeah, I guess, um,
Is it a
I,
common thing for you? Let me ask it that way. Like
yeah.
I know you may do it. I may do it. But it may not be a common thing for me. So some people just naturally go there. They are naturally almost kind of bullies, but not quite,
Mm,
and like poke at their friends and kind of like
yeah,
Ricky Gervais. He like kind of
yeah,
he kind of like fucks with his friends. Like
yeah,
are you like that, or are
yeah,
you more
yeah.
tame on this side of?
Oh, I definitely fuck with my friends. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So, like along the lines of like what Ricky Gervais says, where he's actually
Um,
not
yeah,
exactly like that, but I mean, you got what I'm saying. Where it's like, if someone from the outside saw it, they'd be like, "Wow, that's really mean," you know?
yeah. I think definitely. I think with I do it. I try to do it, but when I know that the other person is like, hopefully gonna find it funny.
Okay,
But
okay.
when they tell
So
me,
you
for
would never
example,
do it mean spiritedly, is what you're saying.
I wouldn't. I never try and do it
You
mean-spiritedly.
would do it in such a way where they always knew that.
Where it's like not that big deal, or if it's like,
Right.
um, I've had few instances where somebody has been like, "Hey man, like don't joke about that," or like,
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
hate when you
mm-hmm.
do this," and it tends to make me feel like, "Oh, okay, that's off the table. I'm not doing that again."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That doesn't happen too often. I think I tend to have a pretty good idea of what people are okay and don't take seriously.
Okay, okay. Let me ask you
Yeah.
this question. It's more of a challenge question, so but
Mhm.
don't worry too much about it. It's just so who is your mother's sister's daughter to you?
My mother's sister's daughter, my cousin,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
And who is your father's brother's son to you?
my cousin,
Okay. Um,
my father's my father's brother's son. Yeah,
okay.
I hope I'm right on
Do you
that.
feel like that now that I think that's interesting. Do you feel like you see ideas? Do you think you visual as if because I saw you do this and I do that. I actually do that too. It's like sort of like it's like
Yeah.
father. You see it spatially. You're like
Mhm.
father's brother's son. So that you're
Yeah.
moving almost spatially through an idea,
Yeah.
as if you can see it, but obviously you can't. But there's some part of your brain that is like thinks that it can.
Um, I think when I begin to struggle with something or when I need to make sure of something, I do.
Mm-hmm.
So like there, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm pretty confident about it. But for some reason, after having said it, I'm like, wait, let me like make sure, Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you wanted to validate, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So let me ask you this question: do you have an aptitude toward? Let's say this: do you have a tendency I
Mm.
was going to ask one question, but I decided on something completely different. Um, do you ever have a tendency to be reclusive?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Um, I think definitely. I I would say I would say actually it's probably one of my worst um I guess character or I guess that's one of my character flaws I guess that I think about the most often is I definitely prefer to spend a lot of or not prefer I need a lot of time alone.
Uh huh.
I prefer to eat alone when people ask me to like go and eat a meal with them or um I usually don't enjoy doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Usually I tend to notice friends um it takes a lot. I don't know. I really need to be in the right mood to be able to hang out with people. I don't really like hang out if I can't really go all out and completely be myself with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I would much rather be alone.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Um,
I don't really go out of my way to go hang out with. I rarely make go out of my way to go make plans with somebody.
I see.
Hmm.
Are you a geek about anything? Like, are you obsessed with anything?
I'm obsessed with psychology, definitely. I've for generally mental illness. I tend to be obsessed about. I grew up in a family of psychiatrists, with a psychiatrist. So, I'm very interested in psychology. I used to be much more of a geek about philosophy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I still sort of probably am a bit of a geek about philosophy. Um, so I would say those are the first two things that come to mind. Philosophy and psychology, I tend to read a lot about, and
What is
that
it about you? What is it about philosophy and psychology that attract you to them?
psychology. Um, I mean, there's just sort of I grew up in a family where everybody had suffered from some sort of mental disorder, and I initially just was very interested in those, and that sort of sprung out into being interested in other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've always like right now for the last like year I've just been incredibly interested in personality disorders. I don't know why. I think they're just like
Mm-hmm.
so um there are just so many. I guess I learned about how many mental illnesses there were that I just never really knew about.
Yeah.
Like I always used to, yeah, there's depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder and schizophrenia and then there were just a multitude of all these other ones that I never knew about and just it kind of like opened up this whole world that was just so um, I'm like, wow, I didn't know that there were this. I didn't know there were this many problems, I guess, or this many different ways environment and can change somebody, or how many different ways the brain can be wired differently. And
Right.
in philosophy, I guess it's just sort of an interest in um, um, just I guess like a learn. It's just sort of an interest in hearing other people's ideas that I tend to find incredibly creative and unique, as well as sort of a guide on how to being able to test different ways of living out to see which one sort of best fits with me. So,
Hmm.
mm,
Yeah. So, do you think that wow, this is tough,
yeah,
man. You are right in the middle. I feel like you are right in the middle of two different types, and
mm,
they have the same dominant function and the same inferior function, but yet,
mm,
and I could be completely off base on this, but
yeah,
this is just sort of where the rabbit hole has led me down, and
mm,
um, so I'm trying to ask questions, but you're kind of in the middle.
mm,
Uh, would you describe your sense of intuition more like the stars in the sky, steadfast, always there, but then you're growing new constellations. You're
mm,
finding new connections, and those are building new constellations? Or would you describe your intuition as a hurricane that is constantly moving and constantly absorbing and building and destroying and never holding on to anything but always in movement?
I would say generally, I would probably always in movement.
Okay.
I think I would probably say I generally have, because I think the bulk of my ideas come from just images or scenes that sort of pop up in my head,
Yeah.
and those are always drastically different. So
Uh-huh,
I'd say hurricane.
So it would be would it be a fair assessment to say you're an ideas guy?
Yeah, I'd say that's
Okay.
fair. Yeah.
And logic and systems and things like that as well?
Um, yeah, yeah.
And theories? Is that fair as well?
Theories. Like I'm interested in theories, or I'm good at coming up with theories.
Probably both, I guess.
I'd say I never really read a lot, or no, I guess yeah, I'd consider myself a theory guy. I guess actually yeah, I would definitely consider myself a theory guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why were you not sure about that? I guess you hadn't thought of it, or what?
I guess I was like, well, what theories do I really think about? I was like, I guess I never really read a lot about theories, but the more I thought about it, I was like, actually, you know what? I guess a lot of the philosophy and psychology I read could probably be considered theories. Um,
Sure.
and I tend to make, I guess, theories not about people, I guess. I tend to kind of, it's probably once again, probably an unhealthy habit I have if I try very hard to, and I'm trying to get away with it, but I tend to psychoanalyze people. Um,
Uh huh.
just once again, probably coming from a father who was a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So I tend to make theories as to like, oh, I wonder why this person did this, or
Mm-hmm.
um, what what's driving their behavior, what's happening underneath. So yeah.
Okay, I see. So, would you be more likely to? So interesting.
Hmm.
Would it be fair to say that you are more likely to try to divine the threads leading up to where they are right now in their behavior versus what they like, what they would like, or what they would find to be uh, palatable, I guess, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Um, no, I tend to. So like, do I tend to look at their past and see how it relates to their present? Is that what you're asking? Versus
Yeah, I suppose when you're theorizing, how are you how are you doing that?
um, I usually look at. I mean, usually I don't. I guess I tend to. I don't do it for everybody. I only tend to do it for psychoanalyze. I use that term very yeah.
Sure.
Tend to psychoanalyze people that have a direct connection or relevance at the moment to me, um, or what's happening in my friend group or something. Um, but so usually I begin to do that to begin the process of like really looking at them and kind of analyzing them when they do something specific,
Mm-hmm.
or if somebody brings up something like this person tends to do this, like I don't know, this person tends to be quite avoidant in their behavior or tend to seem quite cold, and I tend to say, okay, well, let me think about what I know about where they what their relationships with their parents are, what they've told me about themselves, um,
Mm-hmm.
and what they think about themselves, what it was like growing up for them, what issues they've overcome or struggled with before. Um, and then I sort of look at whatever I either kind of just make my own theories or I try and connect it to something to my knowledge of psychology and maybe say, oh, maybe that could lead, maybe this person has this sort of attachment style or this sort of, um, yeah, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So either I just make sort of intuitively or create, like I kind of just make a guess of what I that isn't really connected to any labeled or specific psychological phenomena or term.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't. That's a
Okay.
yeah.
Um, so would you say that how much attachment do you have to uh, let's say you have an idea.
Hmm.
Do you have a lot of attachment to that idea?
No.
No, you're ready and willing to abandon that idea
I would say
if
I'm
something
very
happens, if something comes along. I don't know.
yeah. I'm usually ready. I'm usually ready to abandon it. I'm very passionate about it
Uh-huh.
for uh small amount of time,
Sure.
and usually very generally pretty quickly I'm okay with it to be like, all right, I'm just gonna abandon that, or it's okay if
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting to it.
Okay. Because there's many more to be had is probably the idea, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
no shortage of ideas, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Or honestly, or I'm just like, better things to spend my time doing, I guess.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah, forget to.
Okay. I'm at the point where I have a theory. I'm gonna write
Alrighty.
it down. I could be wrong,
Hmm.
um, because nobody fits in a box, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So it really is just every person is unique, and you know,
yeah.
the fact that you can even try to say that there's 16 types of people is ridiculous. But you know,
Hmm.
the it's just it's just armchair psychology is all it
Yeah,
is.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, to sort of broadly describe your
How'd you get into it? How did you end up like getting into Myers-Briggs and
uh well, I got into it because it was the first methodology I discovered that
hmm
fully explained a lot of very strange and specific things about me.
mm,
um, I first took the like an MBTI test and got ENFJ, and
hmm
I read the description of it and it wasn't resonant. I was like, okay,
yeah.
whatever. And then a few years later, I took another one. I got INFJ, and I read the description, and it suddenly felt like somebody had been following me around my entire life with a
Yeah.
microscope and like revealing all kinds of deep secrets about me that I didn't even know myself. That when I
Yeah.
read, I was like, "Oh fuck, that's real." Um,
Yeah.
so then that caused me to take it more seriously because I was like,
hmm
how did this article written by someone else years ago
Yeah.
describe things I've gone through and things I am currently going through? It didn't make any
hmm
sense. It was real enough that I was like, I need to learn more about this.
Yeah.
Um, once I dug into it, it started to make sense.
hmm
Oh, I had, for me, anyways, I don't know what you know about INFJs, but
Yeah.
INFJs have sort of this sensation of being feeling misunderstood is a kind
Yeah.
of common INFJ thing,
hmm
or not wanting to be misunderstood. So they go through great lengths to be understood.
mm,
Um, Up to and including changing themselves significantly to be a more understandable person.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Huh.
so so basically, as I dug into it more, like my career of study is design and user experience. So I've been in the design field for 16 years now,
Yeah.
and so I I'm very interested in the arts as well, just like you,
Yeah.
and but I'm also and I am very interested in psychology, but it's
hmm
harder for me to go into the hard science of it. But I'm interested in people's brains and why they
Yeah.
do what they do, and really what my job um, is to make technology easier to use for
Oh,
people. So it requires a lot of understanding of how people think and what they like,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
how they would operate using an interface or
hmm
whatever. So so for me, it's all kind of related. It's all kind of connected. And when I learn about this, I feel like I'm also learning some pieces of that.
Yeah.
And so that's it. I just have uncontrollable urge to learn everything about it.
Yeah.
Like when I find a new field of study that I'm interested in, I'll plunder it and then
Oh yeah,
get
just like
90% of what I need to know and then move on to the next thing,
huh.
and then
And
just gradually work on the 10%, because that's the rest of your life is working on that 10%. But that you can pick up like 90% of most things like with 3 to 5 years of research into it.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's
Do
how
you
I got
find
into it.
yourself when you meet somebody like you automatically sort of type them or you guess their type?
um there are certain people that really give off vibes of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That they're yeah, I would say they have to be exhibiting real strong, like if somebody, let's say I'm in a line at a store, which rarely happens anymore now that I can order,
Mhm.
order everything online. But let's just say
Yeah.
I'm out in public and I hear somebody yapping,
Yeah.
and you can listen to what they're talking about and you can get a sense for, so the guy's sitting there at the train station. He's like, so then I says to her, I says, you're not gonna get that money out of me, sister. So then she says to her, and he's going through, like, okay, that's an SI user because he's
Uh,
clearly going through he's wrapped up in his world of
mm,
his narrative, and he has to blurt that onto somebody. And if he's pushing that on someone else,
yeah.
you know, he's probably an FE user, probably an ESFJ or something like that.
Uh,
Like he's
huh.
kind of not aware of himself to some degree, cares what the other person thinks to a strong degree, but is
Yeah.
so wrapped up in his narrative that he doesn't realize always the way he's coming across. But
Yeah.
you know, so yeah,
Yeah.
there's certain types that can make themselves known more clearly than others. Others will be more kind of subtle and you have to get to know them more.
One last. What would you think are like, would you, what would you think of somebody who was like, they constantly just typed everybody, like everybody they met, they were like, oh, this person's that, like
Well, I
trying to,
mean, to me, that just says that they're very interested in typology and they're an
mm,
enthusiast.
yeah,
Um, there are people of, I would say they're more likely to be, um, probably more likely to be NF or NT types. However, I
mm,
do see SF types doing it.
yeah,
You don't really see ST types doing it as much, probably, but
oh,
yeah, ST types are probably. But, there are ESTPs out in the typology community,
ah,
um, but yeah. So
mm,
certain types do seem to be more attracted to learning about it and
yeah,
seem more interested in it. I mean, INFJs are obviously very interested in it. INFPs are very interested in it.
mm,
ENFPs, ENFJs,
mm,
um, a lot. There's a lot of ENTPs interested in typology.
mhm,
There's a lot of INTPs. There's a lot of INTJs. So yeah,
mm,
I mean, I hang out in like pretty much all the typology communities. You can kind of
yeah,
see like who's interested in it, who's not. Certain ones are really big and active, and certain ones are kind of smaller and more
yeah,
quiet. You can kind of get a sense for, okay. The ESFJs are kind of just, they don't give too much of a shit about it. They're
yeah,
they're they're out living life.
yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Um, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I used to hang out with somebody, this kid who would just like constantly. This was like I know a bit about Myers-Briggs, definitely not as much as you, definitely not as much as a lot of people. Um, but yeah, he would just constantly type other people, and we had just a long debate about whether what we thought about like I'm curious, do you think that's a dangerous game to play? Do you think it's sort of maybe um I guess reductive, like to like meet everybody and try and put them in a type?
Um, it depends. I guess it depends on um, what the purpose of that, what they're trying to do. I mean,
Yeah,
if like, you could probably use it to improve your interpersonal relationships to some
yeah,
degree.
yeah,
If you can get a sense for how somebody else thinks, even if you're only in the right ballpark, you might have a sense that, okay, this person is very particular about certain things, and I just need to make sure that I knowing that about them is going to help you relate to them better and communicate with them better. So whether you obviously, everybody's obviously different. So I think it's just a matter of understanding that people, it's they shouldn't take it so seriously. I think that's the way I would put it. Is
Yeah.
it's armchair psychology. It's not intended to be the same as getting your head hooked up to an EEG and
Yeah.
getting a brain scan. Like
Yeah.
if you have cancer, go to a cancer doctor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like don't go to an astrologist. So
Yeah.
I mean the typology is kind of probably halfway between astrology and science. It's
Mm.
like it's got some of both, and it's useful in certain contexts. It's useful in the job context because you can think about, like what kind of careers.
Yeah.
That's what it was intended to be initially. Anyways, it was intended to just be a way for women during World War II to have a better sense of
Oh,
what
really?
career they should go into.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's a very practical use of the system. It's not
Yeah.
that's not real psychoanalysis, like, I have a mental disorder and you need to
Yeah.
diagnose me and give me
Mhm.
medication. Well, you're not going to use Myers-Briggs for that.
Yeah.
So but if you're thinking about buying a gift for a coworker, then maybe you would think about their personality
Yeah.
type. You know what I mean? Like, it's light, it doesn't matter too much. That's kind of
Mm.
probably the territory that MBTI should stay relegated to.
Mm.
But I will say though that if you go out on the internet and look at articles written for certain personality types to deal with certain kinds of problems, there's a
Mhm.
lot of insight and wisdom in those articles. So yeah, it's just kind of a matter of, like, the better you can try to know yourself,
Mm.
you can find other people who are kind of similar to you and have given out advice that might help you in those circumstances. And like I said, at that point, it's just again about sort of just the day-to-day practicality of it,
Yeah.
not necessarily doing any rigorous science or
Yeah.
it's not science. But I mean, you can use the scientific method with it,
Yeah.
and kind of come out with some interesting findings. You can make predictions like you can with science. Like, I can
Yeah.
predict that certain types will like certain gifts.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be able to do that if there was no validity to it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there's got to be some validity to it,
Yeah.
but I
Definitely.
wouldn't, like, stake my life on it.
Yeah.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to be like, life or death. I think you're going to like this gift.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I know for a fact. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
So that's kind of where I would say it lives. It's like slightly better than
Astrology.
50-50. It's
Yeah.
like,
I'm not a fan of astrology.
no, I'm not a fan of astrology either. I'm sorry to all my viewers who are into astrology, because I know a lot of intuitives are into it.
Yeah.
Um, I meet a lot of other INFJs are into it. I'm one of the few INFJs I know that's not into it.
Mm.
But most of the INFJs I
No.
meet are into it.
Yeah.
All right, so you ready? You ready to know what I think you are, and then you can tell me if you've looked into what you think you might be, and
Alrighty.
you'll have to just tell me if this is a complete shock to you. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is just where I ended up. I don't
Okay.
know if this is right. So
Mhm.
here we go. You ready? Drum roll,
I'm ready.
please. Here we go.
INTP. I I honestly I don't know what I am. I've taken the 16 personalities and I've got an ENTP.
Okay.
Um,
That
and I
was
remember,
one of the finalists. That was one
yeah,
of the 3 or 4 finalists.
yeah. I remember when I first read it on 16 personalities. I was a website I'd used 2 years ago, and I'd taken it two more times after that. So I've taken it three in total. I always got ENTP.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember when I first read it, I was like, similar to your experience, I was like, wow, this is like me to a T. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't actually read, I only read the introduction because I didn't want to read everything else. I was like, I don't want to learn this about myself right now. But I remember it saying like ENTPs will argue for something that they don't even particularly believe in. And I was like, wow, I've never heard it phrased like that, but I
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah.
But after having gone to college, because I went to the same school my entire life, and I knew everybody the same people my entire life, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And going into a new environment, I noticed, like college, I found myself much, much more introverted. And I remember when I told a group of kids, it was like three kids, I told them I was an extrovert. They were all that I thought I had got an ENTP, they were all shocked. They were all like, "Oh no, you definitely strike me more as an introvert."
Well, you could be an ENTP though. So I would say of all the types um, that you could be if you weren't INTP,
Mhm.
the two types I would say that you could be would be ISTP and ENTP. So
Mhm.
it was ultimately, to me, it came down to ISTP versus INTP,
Mhm.
and ultimately I settled on INTP. And the reason
Yeah.
was you actually seem to be pretty um, capable with introverted intuition, even though it's not typically a NTP
Yeah.
function that they use much.
Mhm.
Um, you're you seem to be using it, and
Yeah.
that's really where I got kind of caught up. Is like, could he be an ISTP? Because
Yeah.
ISTPs use introverted intuition. So, that's where I was like kind of back
Well,
and
what is
forth.
that? What is introverted intuition?
Introverted intuition. Well, I've made some videos about it, so I'm going to
Yeah, okay.
link to those
Yeah.
videos somewhere up there. Um,
Go watch them.
yeah,
Yeah.
go watch my videos. I've made a bunch of videos about it, but I guess if I know what it is, I should be able to explain it fairly
Hmm.
simply, right? Um, Introverted intuition is a perceiving function, as they call it. It is a sense, it's an inner sense.
Hmm.
I would actually say that it is most akin to the third eye,
Hmm.
which is that ability to look into the darkness and to find convergence and to speak to your subconscious and
Hmm.
to see what's not there, and to
Um,
connect the dots and have an insight. It's inner sight.
yeah.
Whereas extroverted intuition is outwardly focused in a way. It's sort of like yeah, it's that jazz intuition is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Um, but introverted intuition is not is like more. There is a jazz to it, I suppose,
Mhm.
um, but it is more like those constellations. It's more like fixed locations of ideas that you're having, and they all come into play and fit together. Um, I mean,
Hmm.
being an introverted thinker, which is that's what you came down to, two introverted thinking
Yeah.
types, ISTP and INTP. So introverted thinking kind of also has a big aspect of it where it's like organizing information and organizing ideas and connecting the dots and making sense out of things. So it's it's sort of like another way to get to a lot of the similar information that you can get with introverted intuition,
Okay.
but introverted intuition is more concerned about what is unknown than it is necessarily the known, whereas introverted thinking is more concerned with the known
Hmm.
or the theory of the known or something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
You know what I mean? Whereas introverted intuition is sort of like the X Files. It's just
Yeah.
like it's like it's all about that. Um, it's the well of the subconscious.
Yeah.
It's like stuff that's coming in from somewhere,
Hmm.
and and hitting you suddenly. But the thing about introverted intuition is, and what really caused me to realize sort of that you were more likely to be an INTP
Hmm.
was the attachment versus detachment to your ideas.
Hmm.
Introverted intuitives typically are going to be very much more attached to their ideas because
Hmm.
their ideas more are much more a synthesis of many other things like
Hmm.
sensory experiences and other ideas and whatever, and it's like a seed, and it's got all this like genetic material in it. Well, you wouldn't want to throw that beautiful seed away because it's got this wonderful juicy genetic material in it. It's
Yeah.
come about under miraculous circumstances.
Hmm.
So it's a precious thing. Why would you throw it out? But an
Yeah.
extroverted intuitive doesn't see it that way. They see it more like a bolt of lightning where they're just it's movement. It's constant
Yeah.
movement and progression through the void.
Hmm.
So yeah, so for me, as an introverted intuitive, INFJs are introverted intuitive dominants, they call it.
Uh,
So they're using it most frequently to
yeah.
solve problems and to make it through and everything. So when I come up with ideas, to me, those are everything. Those are
Yeah.
the most important thing.
Yeah.
And um, I may have an idea and spend 3 years working on it, to either help it reach its full maturity or to take it to some kind of realistic manifestation of the idea,
Yeah.
so there's very little derailment. In fact, any derailment is seen as a bother or a problem or an inconvenience
Mm.
or something
Mm.
that must be fixed. Any deviation is upsetting, not welcome.
Yeah.
you know so I'm very fixed course kind of person. Like
Mhm.
I see where I need to go, and then I say I need
Yeah.
to do all kinds of things to realize that
Yeah. Yeah.
vision.
Alrighty. I
Yeah.
see. Um, mm. Yeah, I don't know. I have recently been thinking that I haven't taken the test in a long time. I mean, I haven't.
I wouldn't take that one anymore. If you go to typologygifts.com, there's a What's My Type page, and there's a
Yeah.
bunch of different tests. And I kind of give a breakdown of like, this one's short, this one's long, this one's okay, this whatever.
Yeah.
Take a few of those and see where you come out.
Okay.
And I guess look into INTP a little more too,
Yeah.
on a few different sites. Like, don't just look at 16 personality. In fact, I would stop looking at 16 personalities. Start looking at other stuff.
All right.
And if you really want to get to the bottom of it and say like, am I an INTP or an ENTP? But
Mm-hmm.
I will say this: my son is an ENTP,
Mm.
and um, he's very charismatic
Yeah.
and he's very outgoing.
Mm.
And I also have a really good friend who is an ENTP, and he probably is a little more in the middle, but he's also
Mm.
very, very charismatic, very outgoing
Yeah.
when the situation arises. Not to say that INTPs are not also charismatic. So I guess
Yeah.
I should clarify. I have a very good friend who's an INTP, and
Mm.
he can turn it on and be very
Yeah.
charismatic, um, in a big way. But I would say ENTPs thrive on that.
Mm.
They want to be doing that a lot, and not to say, well, my the other thing I've discovered about ENTPs is they do love to be alone. So that's where
Um,
things get a little complicated. It's like,
yeah.
just because you enjoy alone time doesn't mean you're not an ENTP, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the way I would
Yeah.
say it.
Oh, I
Like,
didn't.
it just complicates it a little bit, but I guess ENTPs, just from my experience, they ramble on a lot more than you do.
Mm.
In my experience, the ones I've
Yeah.
known, they fill the spaces quite easily because their minds are always working on something, and then as soon as as soon as it drops,
Yeah.
there's about a beat, and then I wonder about, you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
that's how the other ENTPs I know are like that. There's like a little beat, and then off to the races.
And yeah.
And you don't strike me necessarily as that type.
Hmm.
You strike me as the type who is stuck in introverted thinking land and then
Yeah.
comes out to do intuitive stuff. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I lean more INTP with you.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anyways,
Yeah.
that's where we'll leave. We could leave it there, I guess, and
Yeah.
maybe join the Discord and let me know over time as you do more research or whatever.
For sure.
Maybe you'll come to some more concrete. But hey,
Yeah.
it seems to me like it's probably narrowed down to two types, I would say,
Yeah.
right?
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
that's a good place to be. I mean, and they both use the same cognitive functions, so it's just a
Hmm.
difference of, do you feel like you
The two being ENTP and INTP.
yeah, they use the same
Yeah.
cognitive functions, just different order. So it's really
Yeah.
just about, it would be like, I know I'm right-handed, but am I really right-handed or am I just sort of
Yeah.
right-handed?
Oh, okay.
That's kind of that's kind of where it is. They're very
Awesome.
similar types is the thing.
Mhm.
So there's nuance. So you'll have to dig into the nuance and figure out,
I shall for sure.
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, man. It was good talking, getting to know you.
Yeah,
I
very
appreciate the
fun.
time.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna definitely go do some more research.
Cool.
Chime off in the comments below.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Let us know whether you think Eli is an ENTP or an INTP or a different type, and I got it completely wrong.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments, and I'm sure we'll probably both t- talk in the
Yeah.
comments as well. So,
All
all right,
right.
well, have a good evening, and everyone watching, see you in the next video.
All righty.
Take care.
Bye. All
Bye.
right. See you, man.